Hello, it's Miss Wiley again, and today I'm here to talk to you about finding the area of a circle. I will also talk about finding the circumference of a circle. So, in this picture here, it sort of simplifies the two parts of a circle that you're going to need to know in order to use these formulas. So in this circle, there's two things that are labeled. The first thing that you'll see labeled here, I'll highlight it here with the pink line. That is what we call the diameter. So the D represents the diameter of a circle. And now the diameter is the length from one side of the circle to the other. Now it's important to realize that the diameter must go through the center of the circle. Okay, so the diameter goes from one, I don't know if you really would call it a side. It goes from one end to the other. What's important to understand is that it goes through the center. So if you want to think of this as sort of like a side and another side of a circle, that would be what the diameter is. I'm not going to write that down because it's a little bit hard to write it out in words. Now the other item that you will see labeled, again, goes from the center, and then it goes from the center to the outside of the circle. Okay, not to the outside, but to the edge of the circle, right? And that's labeled with an R. Now the R standing for radius. Okay, what's important to know about the diameter and the radius is they do have a relationship. The diameter is the length of the radius times 2. So the diameter is, the length of the radius times 2. So you can think of it as 2 times r. Okay, it's another way to think of the length of the diameter. Now for the radius, another way you can think about the radius is that the radius is half of the diameter. So if I take the diameter and divide it by 2, I will get the length of the radius. So what you should know here is that this length here is the same length as here and the same length as here, right? So that's something that's important to know about the diameter and the radius, is they do have a relationship. The diameter is twice the length of the radius, and the radius is half the length of the diameter, or the diameter divided by 2. So you can also think of this as 1/2 of the diameter. It's the same thing. So, like I said, we're going to be talking about the area of a circle. We're also going to be talking about the circumference of a circle. So let's talk about the area of a circle first. Now, I'm not going to talk about where the formula comes from. That is for another day, but I am going to talk about what the formula is and how you can find the parts to plug into the formula. Okay, so when it comes to the area of a circle, one of the things that we're going to be using are symbols or numbers, right? It's a special type of number represented by this symbol here. This is the symbol pi. Okay, and on a scientific calculator like you see here, you will see there is a pi button. If you click that pi button, it gives you this decimal, right? It's the decimal that goes on forever and ever, and most people know that pi is approximately 3.14159, right? And you can keep going. So A lot of times people say it's approximately 3.14. Now, you're not going to use 3.14 in place of pi in the calculator. You will use your actual pi button on your calculator. So you're going to need a scientific calculator in order to do this. Okay, so let me clear that out. We will go back to that later. Okay, now again, pi is approximately 3.14, but remember when you're putting it into the calculator, please use the pi button on your calculator and not the approximate value, or your answer will be really off of what it's supposed to be. Now, to find the area of a circle, you're going to be using that symbol. So the area of a circle is represented by the formula pi r squared. So this is the formula for an area of a circle. So if we're going to find the area of this first example here, you can see in this problem that they say it's 26 yards, and then there's a dotted line going the whole way across the circle through the center. So that means that this value here of 26 is representing our diameter, and the diameter is always represented by the variable lowercase d. Now, if you're finding the area, which is what we're going to do, we're going to find the area of this circle. Okay, so we're going to find the area of that circle. I'll put a little circle next to the A so we know what we're finding of. So that's what we want to find. So we're going to have to use pi r squared. Notice that d is not part of our formula, but r is. So if the diameter is 26, what do we know the radius is? Right, it would be half of 26, which is 13. So to find the area of the circle, what you're going to do is you're going to do area equals pi and then times r squared. 13 squared needs to be done before you multiply to pi to follow order of operations. So the answer is, not the answer, but the value of 13 squared is 169. Now, to get an approximate value, to get an exact value, you could just write it as 169 times pi. That's as far as you could go to have an exact amount. For our approximate value, we're going to actually put that into the calculator. Okay, so in our calculator, you're going to write 169 times, and then press the pi button, and then equals. And you'll see that you get a value of, I'll do 2 decimal places, 530.293. Okay. And since this is area is always square units, it's going to be yards square. And that is your area of that circle. Okay. Over here in example 2, we have what we call a semicircle or a half circle. So take note that this is the area of a semicircle or a half circle. Right? So if the area of a circle is pi r squared, right? If you imagine that was the, you're going to finish this circle off. I'm not very good at drawing circles, but imagine you finished that circle off and did it the area of the whole entire circle. We just want the area of half of that circle. So to find the area of the circle, you're going to do pi times the radius squared. Remember, the radius is the length from the center to the outside of the circle. So that means our value that they gave us here is our radius. So you're going to do pi times 17 squared. So simplifying that, we know 17 squared is 289. If you don't know that, you can put it into your calculator, 17 squared, and then times it to pi to get your approximate value of the area of the full circle, 907.92. Now, remember that this is the area of the full circle, right? We want the area of the half circle. So for the area of our half circle, just take half of this area. So I'm going to do area 907.92, and I'm going to divide it by 2, right? So you could just take your value on your calculator if you've left it there and do divided by 2. So that's 453.96. Right? So again, what you're doing here is you're taking this value and you're dividing it by 2 to get this answer here. And since it is area, it's always squared units, so it's feet squared. So there's your answer. Sometimes what they're asking you for is not the area, but you use that formula to get to your answer. So in this example here, it says find the diameter of a circle with an area of 380.13 meters squared. And so for this problem here, I know we have area equals pi r squared. Now the area formula does not include diameter, but it does include radius, and we know that the radius and the diameter have a relationship. So we know that the area is 380.13, and we don't know r. So to find r, we can just solve for it. So we're going to take a moment and we're going to divide both sides by pi. Right? So on our calculator, that's what we're going to do. We'll do 380.13 divided by pi. Right? And that is 100, I think it said 120.999, lots of nines. So let's just say it's 121, I guess. Okay, so then what you're going to do is you're going to square root both sides. So take that and square root it. I don't know where my square root button went. Go back to standard. 121 square root, it's 11. You probably do that, but in case you didn't, you would use your calculator and you would get that the radius is 11. Now, if the radius is 11, all right, remember that the diameter, we talked about this up above, is twice the length of the radius. So to get the length of the diameter, we're going to take the radius and we're going to multiply it by 2. So the diameter is 2 times 11. So our diameter is 22, and its area was meters squared, so the diameter would be 22 meters. Okay. Now I know I said I would talk about circumference of a circle. So circumference of a circle is the length around the circle, sort of like perimeter. And there is a formula for this. I'm not going to necessarily go over any examples, but I will go over what the formula is. So the formula for the circumference of a circle is, to use a capital C for circumference, it's equal to 2 times pi times r. Okay, now the C again stands for circumference. if you're not familiar with that. Now, if I think about it, this is one way to think of circumference. But if I rearrange some things, we know that the order that you multiply does not matter. Like 2 times pi times r is the same as pi times 2 times r. Okay? And then we know that 2 times the radius is equal to our diameter. So another way you can think of circumference is you can think of it as pi times the length of the diameter. It does not matter which way you think about it. Either way, you will get to the correct answer. So you can use this formula to find different information. They might give you a radius and you find the circumference. They might give the circumference and ask you to find the diameter. So there's different ways that you can sort of think about that. So I hope that this information helps you with the area of a circle and the circumference of a circle. Please like this video, subscribe to my page, and good luck with your practice.